What's up, Chicanos? How's it going, everybody? This is gonna be a little nice video. Let me talk about the Chicano movement, Cesar Chavez, and the whole organization of the farm workers being the main, or Cesar Chavez being the main head and face of the Chicano movement. So, to me, yes, Cesar Chavez he did play a part in the brown identity, the Mexican identity and history. But Cesar Chavez to me is over promoted, especially because when anytime people think of Chicano leaders or Chicano history, Chicano movement, it's automatically Cesar Chavez. Yes, he was fighting for the farm workers' rights to get better pay, and it did get pretty national. And his boycott went all the way to Europe, to where people were not buying grapes anymore and not buying any fruits from these certain companies and farms. So at the end, fighting for the farm, fighting for land is not gonna, or not fighting for land, but fighting to work on the farm for better pay is not gonna benefit our people in the long run. And then see, nobody, all these people, see, back in the day, everybody was a U.S., so-called U.S. citizen when they were fighting for better pay, if you know the history of the Chicano movement. So everybody was a citizen, and now they're so-called illegal. So when Cesar Chavez started getting older and it became in the 80s, you read that he noticed that it was more about so-called illegals now working on the fields, not U.S. citizens, so-called U.S. Mexican Americans were not on the fields no more in the 80s. They were not trying to work in the fields. That was not something we were trying to be. So, to me, Cesar Chavez being the face is over promoted. It's like, this is all we're good for. This is all we're seen to be, is farm workers, field workers. And Cesar Chavez did not promote himself as being a part of the Chicano movement. He did consider himself a Chicano, but he never, if you know the history, he did not say he was a part of the Chicano movement particularly. He was for the farm rights and all that, which was good at the time. Yes, they went marching and they got real known, but that didn't help our people now, because for so-called U.S. citizens, we're not trying to work on the fields right now. And to me, him being the face is just kind of overrated. It's like, this is all we're good for, is working on the fields, when yet they had the school walkouts. They had people like Lopez. What's his name? I got Ruiz Lopez. You got Dr. Hector P. Garcia. You have Corky Gonzalez, which some people may know, who defined the meaning of being Chicano. And then, so, like, Lopez was fighting for land rights, and I believe some of them did get into the office in Texas. If you know about the land rights, they were fighting for politics to be, and they won. They were actually running the city, but then they lost it because they didn't know how to keep up with financially and bills. So then the Chicanos lost it. They were running it for a while, and then they lost it. And see, that's the stuff that we need to be taught, that these students, especially in LA, the student walkouts, these kids were fighting for, at the time when they were kids, now they're like 50, 60 years old, they were fighting for a better education, for a better thought of mind, for teachers to look like us, to be teaching us, to have relations in school of stuff that we could identify with. Now that's the stuff that's going to help us in the long run. Better thinking, better education, better curriculum. And that's the stuff that Chicanos were pushing for, not the farm. The farm at the end ended up falling off. We weren't trying to be on the farm no more. We were trying to be politicians, teachers, astronauts, scientists. That's what the movement was about. And see, they don't promote like the face of any of these kids, to me, is because it would show more of what we accomplish and what we could be, and it would show that these kids walking out actually did accomplish a lot, because in LA they ended up getting more Mexican teachers, more Mexican culture, and yes, it did fall off because of the gangs and drugs in the 80s. Of, if you know, that's all government help, government assisted, bringing drugs into the neighborhoods. But so to me, Cesar Chavez, he is not a head face. He's not a number one leader to think at. Like, he did actually, the one of the things you gotta give Cesar Chavez props for is that he did start his own little banking unit, credit union within his people of the farm workers. They started handling each other money amongst each other to better themselves. That's one thing that you could learn from him. But at the end, and when it came to the 80s, so-called Mexican Americans were not trying to be on the fields anymore. It became all Mexicans, straight so-called illegals. So his fight was becoming different. How can he fight for people who are not so-called legal? That's what I read about his last days, his last years. He started realizing this. So to me, he would have had to have changed his whole thing. He would have had to have eventually brought up indigenous identity. You know, this is our continent. This is our land. We're indigenous. He would have had to have, because how would he have fought? How would he fight for these so-called illegals that they're fighting for now? What can they do to better the organization, make the movement, you know, accelerate by understanding that they're not immigrants, by they're not so-called illegals and wetbacks, and you know, you have to throw culture into it. And then once we start learning our culture and our history and who we are, we're gonna be laughing at them. You know, one thing that we need to learn is that the Chicano movement helped out in bringing a lot of education to our people, but then it just rolled over us. We didn't pick it up and go with it. We just fell off when it came to education and bettering our community with knowledge. So, I mean, to me, I think those kids and all those people who were fighting for the education point, that's where it matters. That's where, at the end, you know, it really recognizes it. It started the Chicano classes in college and all that. So, I mean, to me, Cesar Chavez is too over promoted, as in being the face of the Chicano movement all the time, especially when he even said, I don't really participate or label myself as being a part of the Chicano movement. Even though he was Chicano, the movement was what those kids and the people in Texas fighting for politicians' rights, and you know, trying to be mayor or counselor, or you know, trying to control the community. That's what it's about. That's what we need to do. Because then once we control the community and our neighborhoods, then we could control the fields and you know, control what we want to do and who we want to work. That's what it's about. I mean, I just always wanted to, you know, something I always had a personal feeling and thought about, you know, Cesar Chavez just kind of being overrated as being the face of the Chicano movement, when you got other people and other faces that, you know, actually made somewhat of a difference that's not being shown and promoted to me in a way. Because to me, when I learn about or understand the Chicano movement, I don't see them. It's like Cesar Chavez is the face. So, I mean, give me your thoughts and comments on what you think about the Chicano movement and Cesar Chavez being the main face, and if you feel like he should be the main face, or you know, or your other thoughts about any Chicano leaders not really being recognized as much as they should be, or they should be the face of it. So let me know what you think, Chicanos, on how you feel about the Chicano movement and Cesar Chavez. So leave your thoughts and comments. Give this, you know, a like so I know how y'all feeling. Peace out.